What happens when a quick-witted Hollywood star known for humor walks straight into a conversation he refuses to laugh off? Make sure to subscribe to the Star Talks and like and comment for more talk show coverage. So the energy is already upbeat as the cameras settle in. The audience is clapping, a few whistles here and there, and you can feel that familiar rhythm of a daytime talk show warming up. Joy leans slightly forward, smiling, her cards in hand, while the other co-hosts are still laughing about something that happened off camera just seconds earlier. Joy starts it off casually, almost playfully. We're back, and joining us now is someone who somehow manages to be funny in literally every situation. Actor, producer, and let's be honest, professional troublemaker. Ryan Reynolds. The audience cheers louder this time. Ryan walks out, waving, shaking a few hands near the front row before taking his seat. He gives that half smile he's known for, nodding to everyone at the table. Thank you, he says, adjusting his mic. I like that introduction. I feel like I should be worried about the troublemaker part, though. Joy chuckles. Oh, don't worry, we'll get to that. There's a light ripple of laughter from the audience, but there's also this subtle shift. Like people are already anticipating something a little sharper than the usual friendly interview. One of the co-hosts jumps in, trying to keep it light. You've been everywhere lately. New projects, business ventures. You're even popping up in ads every 5 minutes. Do you ever sleep? Ryan shrugs. I sleep emotionally. Physically, not so much. More laughs. He's relaxed, leaning back slightly, one arm resting on the table. But Joy watches him closely, her expression just a bit more focused. So, she says, tapping her cards lightly, you've also been pretty vocal lately, online interviews about certain issues. Politics, media, public responsibility. You're not exactly staying in your lane, are you? The audience gives a mixed reaction, some laughter, some oh sounds. Ryan tilts his head slightly, smiling but clearly registering the shift. I didn't realize I had a lane, he replies. I thought we were all just kind of on the same road. Joy raises an eyebrow. Well, some people think celebrities should stick to entertaining, not influencing serious conversations. Ryan nods slowly. Right. I've heard that one. There's a brief pause. One of the co-hosts tries to soften it. I mean, people do feel strongly about that. They want an escape sometimes. Ryan turns slightly toward her. I get that. I really do. But I also think, if you have a platform, it's kind of hard to pretend the world doesn't exist outside your job. Joy leans in again, a little more assertive now. But is it your place? That's the question. You're an actor. People didn't elect you. They didn't ask for your opinion on serious matters. The audience reacts again, this time louder. Some clapping, some murmurs. Ryan's smile tightens just a bit. Not gone, but definitely more controlled. I mean, people didn't elect me to make movies either. They just kind of showed up. A few laughs break the tension, but Joy doesn't back off. That's not the same, she says. Movies are entertainment. When you start speaking on real-world issues, you're stepping into territory that affects people's lives in a very direct way. Ryan leans forward now, elbows lightly on the table. Yeah, that's exactly why I speak on it. That line lands. The audience goes quiet for a second, then a few claps start up again. Joy watches him carefully. So you believe your voice carries the same weight as, say, experts? Policymakers? Ryan shakes his head immediately. No, not at all. I think my job is to point people toward those voices. Or at least, encourage people to care. There's a slight shift in the energy. One of the co-hosts nods. That's fair. Using your reach to amplify others. But Joy isn't convinced. Except sometimes it doesn't come across that way. Sometimes it feels like celebrities are telling people what to think. Ryan exhales softly, still composed. I think people are smarter than we give them credit for. They're not just blindly following an actor because he made a joke on Twitter. A few audience members clap at that, louder this time. Joy responds quickly. You'd be surprised. That gets a reaction, some laughter, but also a few uneasy murmurs. Ryan glances at the audience, then back at Joy. Maybe, but I'd rather believe people can think for themselves than assume they can't. There's a brief silence. You can feel the tension building, not explosive, but definitely there. Another co-host tries to redirect slightly. Let's talk about your latest project for a second, because it actually touches on some of these themes, right? Ryan nods, grateful for the pivot, but still clearly engaged. Yeah, it does. It's about accountability, in a way. About people realizing their actions matter. Joy interjects almost immediately. Accountability. That's interesting. Do you think celebrities are accountable when they speak out and maybe influence things they don't fully understand? The audience reacts again, this time louder, more divided. Ryan pauses. This is the first real pause where he doesn't jump in with humor right away. I think everyone is accountable, he says finally. Including me. Including you. Including anyone with a microphone. That line hits. The audience lets out a collective, "Oh." Joy's expression shifts slightly. Not offended, but definitely more serious now. Are you saying I'm not accountable? Ryan shakes his head quickly. No, I'm saying the opposite. I'm saying we all are. That's kind of the point. The tension is fully there now. Not chaotic, not out of control, but very real. One of the co-hosts jumps in, trying to ease it. Okay, we're getting into the deep end early today. The audience laughs, grateful for the break. Ryan leans back again, a small smile returning. I was told this would be a friendly chat. Joy smiles too, but it's a little sharper now. Oh, it is. We're just getting started. The audience reacts again, this time louder, sensing exactly where this is going. And you can feel it. This isn't going to stay light for long. The audience is still reacting when the conversation picks right back up. That energy hanging in the air like everyone knows this isn't just a routine interview anymore. Ryan shifts slightly in his chair, still composed, but you can tell he's more alert now, listening carefully, choosing his words more deliberately. Joy taps her cards again, but she's not really looking at them. Her focus is entirely on him. You know, she says, her tone calm but pointed. I've been doing this a long time. I've seen a lot of celebrities come on shows like this, and the moment the conversation gets serious, suddenly it's jokes, deflection, or I'm just here to entertain. But you're not doing that. Ryan gives a small shrug. I mean, I can if you want. I've got material ready. The audience laughs, relieved for a second, but Joy doesn't fully take the bait. No, I don't want that, she says quickly. I actually appreciate that you're engaging. But that's exactly why I'm pushing you on this. Because when you do engage, people listen. Ryan nods slowly. That's fair. One of the co-hosts leans in, trying to balance things. But isn't that also a good thing? If someone uses their influence to encourage awareness, to get people talking. Joy turns slightly toward her. It depends on how it's done. There's a difference between encouraging conversation and steering it. Ryan picks up on that immediately. But isn't every conversation kind of steered by someone? The audience gives a soft reaction, some murmurs, a few claps. Joy responds without hesitation. Not necessarily. A good conversation allows multiple perspectives without one dominating. Ryan tilts his head. Right. But having a perspective isn't the same as dominating, is it? There's a slight pause. You can feel both of them holding their ground, but still staying within that talk show rhythm. Another co-host tries to lighten it again. I feel like we're about 2 minutes away from turning this into a full debate segment. The audience laughs, but it's more nervous this time. Joy smiles briefly, then looks back at Ryan. Let me ask you something directly. When you post something online, something political, something serious, do you ever stop and think, maybe I shouldn't weigh in on this? Ryan doesn't answer immediately. He takes a breath, glances down for a second, then back up. Yeah, he says. All the time. That answer catches Joy off guard just slightly. Really? Yeah, Ryan continues. I think anyone who says they don't hesitate before putting something out there probably should. A few claps from the audience. But, he adds, hesitation doesn't always mean silence. Sometimes it just means you try to be more careful. Joy leans back a bit, crossing her arms loosely. Careful how? Ryan gestures lightly with his hands. Careful about not pretending I'm an expert. Careful about not talking over people who actually live these issues. But also careful about not ignoring things just because they're uncomfortable. The audience reacts again, this time more supportive. Joy nods slowly, but she's still not fully convinced. But intent and impact aren't the same thing. Ryan immediately agrees. Absolutely. They're not. That quick agreement shifts the tone for a second. It's less combative, more precise. Joy continues. So what happens when the impact of what you say isn't what you intended? When people take your words and run with them in ways you didn't expect? Ryan pauses again, this time longer. You deal with it, he says. You listen. You learn. You adjust. Joy raises an eyebrow. Do celebrities actually do that, though? Or do they just move on to the next post? A few audience members laugh quietly. Ryan smiles faintly. Some probably do that. I can't speak for everyone. I can only say, I try not to. There's a beat of silence. One of the co-hosts jumps in, sensing the intensity. I think what's interesting here is that we're talking about responsibility in a way that goes both directions, she says. Public figures, media, audiences, it's all connected. Ryan nods. Exactly. But Joy isn't letting it settle. Except, she says, leaning forward again, not everyone has the same reach. That's the part you're kind of skimming over. When you say something, millions of people see it instantly. That's not the same as a regular person sharing an opinion. The audience murmurs in agreement. Ryan responds calmly. I'm not skimming over it. I'm acknowledging it. That's why I said there's responsibility. Joy shakes her head slightly. Acknowledging it isn't the same as fully understanding the consequences. That line lands harder. You can feel it. Ryan's expression changes, not angry, but more serious now. And what would fully understanding look like? He asks. Joy doesn't hesitate. It would look like restraint. There's an immediate reaction from the audience, some applause, some disagreement. Ryan leans back, letting that sit for a second. So say less, he asks. Joy nods. Sometimes yes. Ryan exhales softly, a small smile returning but with an edge now. That's interesting, because for a long time, people were told to stay quiet, to not speak up, to just entertain. Joy responds quickly. And there's a reason for that. The audience reacts louder this time, some clapping, some oh sounds. Ryan tilts his head again. Is there? Or is it just more comfortable that way? That line shifts the energy again. It's sharper now. One of the co-hosts raises her hands slightly. Okay, we're definitely in it now. The audience laughs, but the tension doesn't go away. Joy looks directly at Ryan. Comfort has nothing to do with it. Expertise does. Lived experience does. Not every platform is the right platform for every conversation. Ryan nods slowly, but his tone is firmer now. I agree with that. But I also think shutting people out of conversations entirely because of what they do for a living, that's not the answer either. A few audience members clap loudly at that. Joy counters immediately. No one's saying shut people out. I'm saying know your limits. Ryan leans forward again. And who decides those limits? There's a pause. A real one. Joy opens her mouth, then closes it briefly, choosing her words. Common sense, she says finally. The audience reacts, mixed again. Ryan gives a small, almost incredulous smile. That's a pretty flexible standard. A few laughs break out. Joy doesn't smile this time. It's a necessary one. The air feels heavier now. Even the co-hosts are quieter, watching closely. Ryan glances at them, then back at Joy. I just think, if we start drawing hard lines about who's allowed to speak and who isn't, we end up with fewer voices, not better conversations. Joy responds, her tone steady but firm. Or we end up with more informed ones. That lands. Hard. The audience reacts again, this time louder than before, clearly split. One co-host tries to jump in, but both Ryan and Joy are already locked into the exchange. Ryan nods slowly. I don't disagree with wanting informed conversations. I just don't think the solution is telling people to stay in their lane. Joy leans in one more time, her voice slightly lower, but more intense. And I don't think the solution is everyone grabbing a microphone and thinking their opinion carries the same weight. There's a collective whoa from the audience. Ryan sits back, silent for a moment. The longest pause so far. You can feel it. This is no longer just a discussion. It's a real disagreement, unfolding in real time. And for the first time since he sat down, Ryan doesn't immediately respond. The silence lingers just a second longer than what people are used to on a show like this. It's not awkward exactly, but it's heavy. You can feel the audience leaning in, waiting to see how Ryan responds, and even the co-hosts seem unsure whether to jump in or let it play out. Ryan finally exhales, nodding slightly, almost like he's collecting his thoughts before speaking. I don't think it carries the same weight, he says, his voice calmer now, more measured than before. I really don't. But I also don't think weight is the only thing that determines whether someone should speak. Joy watches him closely, her expression steady. Then what does? She asks. Ryan shifts forward again, resting his hands lightly on the table. Intent. Awareness. Willingness to listen. I mean, if someone speaks and then refuses to hear anyone else, that's a problem. But just speaking? I don't think that's the issue. A few claps ripple through the audience, softer this time, more thoughtful than reactive. Joy tilts her head slightly. But you're assuming everyone approaches it that way. Ryan gives a small nod. No, I'm hoping they do. There's a difference. That line lands quietly. You can almost feel people processing it. One of the co-hosts leans in, trying to thread the needle. I think what's interesting here is that both of you are talking about responsibility, but from different angles. Joy, you're focused on the responsibility before speaking. Ryan, you're talking about responsibility after speaking. Ryan nods. That's actually a really good way to put it. Joy glances at her co-host, then back at Ryan. Except the after doesn't undo the damage if something goes wrong. Ryan's expression tightens slightly, not defensive, but more serious. True, he says. But neither does silence if something needs to be said. That line gets a stronger reaction. Some applause, a few yes from the audience. Joy doesn't react immediately this time. She lets the moment sit, then leans forward again, her tone shifting just a bit. Less confrontational, more direct. Let me bring this down to something specific, she says. Because this isn't just theoretical. You've made comments in the past about certain social issues that got a lot of attention. Some people praised you. Others felt like you were oversimplifying things. Did you see that criticism? Ryan nods right away. Yeah, I did. And, Joy presses. And some of it was fair, he admits. That answer creates a noticeable shift. The audience reacts with a mix of surprise and approval. Joy raises her eyebrows slightly. Okay, that's not always what we hear. Ryan lets out a small breath. Well, it should be. I mean, I don't get everything right. No one does. One of the co-hosts smiles. That's refreshing. Joy, however, stays focused. So when you realize something you said missed the mark, what do you actually do about it? Ryan thinks for a second. Depends on the situation. Sometimes I'll address it directly. Sometimes I'll reach out privately to people who were affected. Sometimes I just take it in and try to do better next time. Joy nods slowly, but there's still a hint of skepticism. But do you think that's enough? Given the size of your platform? Ryan doesn't answer immediately. He looks out toward the audience for a second, then back at the table. I don't think there's a perfect answer, he says. I think it's ongoing. It's messy. But I think trying matters more than pretending you shouldn't be part of the conversation at all. That draws another round of applause, stronger this time. Joy lets the applause die down before responding. But there's also something to be said for knowing when not to center yourself in a conversation. Ryan nods. I agree with that. That agreement catches the audience off guard again. Really? Joy asks. Yeah, Ryan says. If a conversation is about someone else's lived experience, it shouldn't suddenly become about me just because I have a bigger platform. That's not helpful. A few co-hosts nod along with that. Joy leans back slightly. So where's the line then? Because earlier, you were pushing back against the idea of staying in your lane. Now you're saying there are moments where you step back. Ryan smiles faintly. Yeah, because it's not a fixed line. It moves depending on the situation. Joy shakes her head just a little. That sounds convenient. There's a small reaction from the audience, some laughter, some murmurs. Ryan chuckles lightly. It probably does. But real life is kind of inconvenient like that. That gets a few laughs, easing the tension just a bit. But Joy isn't done. My concern, she continues, is that this flexibility you're talking about, it can also be used as an excuse. People can say whatever they want, and then later say, well, I'm learning, I'm growing. Meanwhile, the impact is already out there. Ryan listens without interrupting this time, which itself shifts the tone. When she finishes, he nods slowly. That's a valid concern, he says. It really is. The audience quiets down again. But I think the alternative, expecting people to only speak when they're 100% informed, 100% certain, that doesn't work either. Because then most people would never say anything at all. Joy responds quickly. Or maybe they'd take more time to actually understand before speaking. Ryan meets her gaze. And maybe some do. But understanding doesn't happen in isolation. It happens through conversation, through engagement, even through getting it wrong sometimes. That line gets a noticeable reaction. Strong applause from parts of the audience. Joy raises her hand slightly, almost like she's about to interrupt, but she lets him finish. I'm not saying mistakes are okay, Ryan adds. I'm saying they're inevitable. The important part is what you do after. Joy exhales softly, leaning back again. For the first time, there's a slight pause where she doesn't immediately counter. One of the co-hosts takes the opportunity. I think what we're seeing here is a bigger question about public discourse in general, not just celebrities. Everyone has a platform now in some way. Ryan nods. Exactly. Joy glances at her, then back at Ryan. But again, not everyone has your platform. Ryan responds calmly. That's true, and I don't take that lightly. There's a sincerity in his tone now that wasn't as obvious earlier. Joy studies him for a moment. Then why does it sometimes come across like you're speaking so confidently on things that are incredibly complex? The question lands differently than the others, less confrontational, more probing. Ryan pauses again, longer this time. Because confidence reads louder than uncertainty, he says finally. Even when you're actually unsure. That line hits hard. The audience reacts with a mix of quiet murmurs and a few scattered claps. Joy tilts her head slightly. So you're saying you are unsure sometimes, but it doesn't come across that way? Ryan nods. Yeah, and that's something I'm trying to be more aware of. There's a shift again, subtle but real. The tension isn't gone, but it's evolving. Joy's tone softens just a fraction. I can respect that, but I still think there's a responsibility to be very careful about how that confidence is perceived. Ryan nods again. And I agree with that. A brief silence follows. Not tense this time, just reflective. But then Joy leans forward once more, and you can tell she's not quite ready to let it settle. Let me ask you this, she says. Do you think celebrities have too much influence right now? The audience reacts immediately. This is a big question. Ryan smiles slightly, but it's not his usual playful one. I think influence exists whether we like it or not, he says. The question is how it's used. Joy responds quickly. That's not what I asked. A few sounds from the audience. Ryan nods. Okay, then yes, sometimes probably. But I don't think the solution is less voices. I think it's better conversations. Joy shakes her head again, but there's a hint of a smile now, like she respects the answer, even if she doesn't fully agree. And we're having one right now, she says. Ryan smiles back. Yeah, we are. The audience applauds, louder this time, not because the tension is gone, but because it's turned into something deeper. But even as the applause fades, you can feel it. There's still one more layer to this conversation. And neither of them seems ready to drop it just yet. The applause lingers a little longer this time, and for a moment it almost feels like the conversation might naturally wind down. One of the co-hosts smiles, glancing toward the audience like she's about to pivot things back to something lighter, maybe even wrap the segment. But Joy doesn't move her cards. She doesn't look away. She stays locked in. You know, she says, her tone calmer now but still deliberate. I think what's interesting about this whole exchange is that we're actually proving both sides of the argument at the same time. Ryan looks at her, curious. How so? Joy gestures lightly between them. You're saying more voices create better conversations. And here we are, having a conversation that's clearly resonating. She nods slightly toward the audience, where a few people are still murmuring, reacting. Ryan nods. Right. But, Joy continues, it's also showing how complicated it gets. Because not everyone watching this is hearing the same thing. Some people agree with you. Some agree with me. And some are probably more confused than when we started. That draws a ripple of laughter from the audience, relieved but thoughtful. Ryan smiles faintly. That's kind of the nature of it, though, isn't it? Joy shrugs. Maybe. Or maybe it's a sign that too many people are speaking without enough clarity. Ryan exhales softly, but there's no frustration in it now. More like acceptance of where the conversation has landed. Or, he says, it's a sign that clarity takes time. And conversations like this are part of how you get there. The audience claps again, this time more unified than before. One of the co-hosts finally steps in with a lighter tone. I feel like we just gave everyone at home a lot to think about before lunch. That gets a genuine laugh across the table, including from Joy. Yeah, Ryan adds, sorry about that. I was supposed to just promote a movie and maybe make a joke about my terrible cooking skills. Joy smiles at that. Oh, we can still talk about that. I've heard things. The tension breaks just enough for everyone to breathe again. The audience laughs, the co-hosts relax back into their chairs, and for a brief moment, it feels like the storm has passed. But the impact of what just happened is still hanging in the air. One co-host turns to Ryan. Before we let you go, because we do have to wrap soon, what's one thing you'd want people to take away from this conversation? Ryan pauses, looking out at the audience again. This time, it's not a quick glance. He really takes a second. I'd say, don't be afraid to engage, he says. But also don't be afraid to listen. Like, really listen. Not just wait for your turn to talk. There's a quiet moment, then a wave of applause. Joy nods slowly. That's fair. She looks out at the audience now, then back at the camera. And I'd ask questions. Don't just accept something because it sounds good or comes from someone you like. Dig deeper. More applause. Ryan glances at her and smiles. See, we agree more than it probably looked like. Joy gives a small smile back. That tends to happen when you actually talk things through. The co-hosts chuckle, and one of them gestures toward the camera. All right, on that note, we're going to take a quick break. The audience claps as the segment wraps, but there's a different energy now. People aren't just clapping out of habit, they're still processing, still reacting. As the cameras pull back slightly and the show cuts to commercial, you can see Ryan and Joy exchange a few quiet words off mic. It's not heated. If anything, it looks respectful. Two people who just had a real disagreement, but didn't let it turn into something personal. The audience members closest to the stage are already talking among themselves, some nodding, some shaking their heads, some pulling out their phones. And that's where the next wave begins. Because within minutes of the segment ending, clips start surfacing online. Short snippets, Ryan saying, "I'd rather believe people can think for themselves." Joy saying, "Maybe they should show more restraint." The moment where the audience reacted the loudest. On platforms like Twitter and TikTok, the debate takes on a life of its own. Some users are posting things like, "Ryan handled that with way more patience than I expected," while others are saying, "Joy made a solid point. Celebrities need to be more careful." Clips are edited, replayed, slowed down. Reactions pile up. People who didn't even watch the full segment are jumping in with opinions. A few comments even go viral, with users arguing back and forth about who won the exchange. Though others push back on that idea entirely, saying it wasn't about winning at all. Meanwhile, back behind the scenes, the tone is noticeably calmer. Ryan is seen talking briefly with one of the producers, still relaxed, even joking about how the conversation went a little deeper than expected. Joy is speaking with another co-host, nodding as they discuss the segment, her expression thoughtful rather than defensive. There's no sign of lingering hostility, just that quiet aftermath that comes when something real has happened on air. Later that day, entertainment outlets start picking up the story. Headlines frame it in different ways, some focusing on the clash, others calling it a thoughtful debate. Clips from the show are shared across multiple platforms, with viewers dissecting every moment. The pauses, the tone shifts, the lines that hit the hardest. Some fans of Ryan Reynolds praise his composure, saying he stayed respectful even when challenged directly. Others side with Joy Behar, arguing that her points about responsibility and influence shouldn't be dismissed. And then there are those who say the most important thing wasn't who was right, but that the conversation happened at all. By the evening, the segment has been clipped into multiple versions, short clips, longer breakdowns, reaction videos. Some creators analyze the body language, others focus on specific quotes, and a few even recreate the debate in their own style. Back on the show's official page for The View, the full segment is uploaded, and the comments section fills up quickly. Some viewers thank the show for not cutting the conversation short. Others say it got too tense. A few even say they changed their perspective after watching both sides. And that's really the lasting effect of it. Not a shouting match, not a walk-off, not a viral meltdown, just a real conversation with disagreement, tension, and moments of understanding, all playing out in front of a live audience. By the next day, both Ryan and Joy have moved on to their next commitments. There's no follow-up feud, no dramatic statements, just a few subtle acknowledgments in interviews that the discussion was important and worth having. But for viewers, the moment sticks, because it felt unscripted, unfiltered, real. And those are the moments people keep coming back to. So now it's your turn. What did you think about this exchange? Do you agree more with Ryan's perspective? Or do you think Joy had the stronger argument? Share your opinion in the comments and subscribe to the Star Talks for more real talk show stories.